Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Vol Society Live, the post-game show for the Music City Bowl. My name is David Morrison. I am the Vol Society analyst here on the Vol Society Network. And wow. That's the only thing I can say. Tennessee falls to Purdue in overtime, 48-45, in a very controversial game that's going to be talked about quite some time. Like I said, it's just there's a lot to talk about tonight. So, but we thank you for joining us tonight. Coming on a little late on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/UT Vol Society. Like I said, my name is David Morrison. I'm the Vol Society analyst here on the Vol Society Network. Let's go ahead and unpack this suitcase. Tennessee, looking at the stats here, we'll go through the highlights first, and then we'll kind of break down the stats. Of course, you can go ahead and comment on the video, whether you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, and I'll try to answer best as I can. But Tennessee started out at the 10:28 mark in the first quarter. Hendon Hooker find Cedric Tillman, made Tennessee go up 7-0. Good evening to you, Mike or Mark. Yeah. Refs really did cheat us out, and we'll get to that in just a second. But Tennessee did jump out to a 7-0 lead in the first quarter, and then Purdue answered back. Aiden O'Connell, Thompson tied it up at 7. Tennessee answered back, and looked like in the first quarter Tennessee was going to go in cruise control. Had a 21-7 lead, or 21-7 lead, going into the second quarter. Hooker found Tillman for the second touchdown, and then Small got into the end zone. And it looked like Tennessee was really looking good, but then Tennessee's offense sputtered in the second quarter, and Purdue chipped away, kicked 3 field goals, and then with 19 seconds to go before the half, Purdue took the lead 23-21. Tennessee came out in the second half, a nice opening drive. Hendon Hooker found Belvis Jones 15 yards for a touchdown, made 28-23. And then that's when the touchdown started going back and forth. Purdue answered back with a big touchdown, and Tennessee kicked a field goal with Chase McGrath at the end of the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, it's where everything went crazy. Back and forth. Once again, touchdowns. And Tennessee ended up tying the game with 1:35 to go. Made it. Tied it up at 45 apiece. And then the overtime, this is where everybody's now chiming in. I'll go ahead and say this. I thought that should have been a touchdown. To me, there was no way. You have a Purdue football player in a dark uniform and a Tennessee player in a white uniform, and he's literally laying on top of him, reaching across to an end zone where there's an orange end zone. I totally agree. I have no idea how that was the whistle blew or all that. To me, you got to let the kids play. You got to let the play out because that just ruined a touchdown right there for Tennessee. I totally did not get it at all. But I will say this about Tennessee tonight. Tennessee did get themselves into that situation a lot of times tonight. I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't want to give up and just let Purdue win. Both teams wanted to win this game. But Tennessee gave up some big chunk plays down the field. The secondary was very bad tonight. Poor performances from time to time. Unfortunately, every time that we try to cover receiver, they throw a flag for pass interference. I mean, it was ridiculous. And Warren Burrell, which I haven't been a big fan of throughout the year, that last one they threw at him should have not been called. And you saw Josh Heupel get upset by that. And I agree, David. The refs were terrible. They did win the game, and that's the frustrating part. We talked about in the pregame show just all the positive momentum with this team, and unfortunately, it came out on a bad end of the deal. This game was very reminiscent of the Ole Miss game. Maybe the Ole Miss game was worse, I don't know. I'll let y'all debate on that, which was probably the worst, more screwy loss, that of the Purdue game and the Ole Miss game. Um, you know, it was just a frustrating night. It was a nail biter, and I know. I guess if the silver lining is Tennessee did try to make it a game, or definitely did make it a game, and yeah, just a frustrating night, frustrating into that game. I thought it should have been a touchdown, and that gave Purdue the chance to kick the field goal and win it. But I will be the sportsman, be the good sportsmanship, and say congratulations to Purdue on a win. For having that many guys out. They did play a really great game. Aiden O'Connell, I didn't know much about him besides just YouTube highlights, and he played very well. But then again, our defense made him look like an All-American quarterback. He threw like 524 yards tonight. Just a frustrating night, no doubt about it. Now you're going into the 2022 season with this bad taste in your mouth. But you do have some momentum going into next year. You got an offense that's going to be clicking with Hendon Hooker at quarterback. You got Cedric Tillman, who played a great game tonight. I will say this: I'm kind of surprised they didn't target Tillman a little bit more tonight. I thought, he had that hot first quarter, the 2 quick scores to him. I would have probably kept going to him, but it seemed like they wanted to go to Princeton Fan a little bit more. And Velus Jones Jr. And I like Velus, and I think he's fine, but I think Tillman should have been that main guy, unless he. I may have to go back and rewatch. He may have been double teamed quite a bit tonight, but like I said, at least going into next year, you do have optimism about this team. I think the key factor is now you've had 1 year in this Josh Heupel offense, and I think a lot of these SEC teams are probably now going to start making adjustments and figure out how to slow down this tempo. Like I said, I still feel very confident in an 8 to possibly 10 win season next year. But now it's you're probably going to be in a lot of grind out games next year. But just a very frustrating night, frustrating way to end the season. Yeah, I agree, Helen. We should have won it. I don't get it how that was considered down. I mean, I've always been told, let the play out. And I don't get it what they saw. I saw Jalen Wright on top of a Purdue player. I did not. I mean, I don't know. Just very frustrating. But, once again, congratulations to Purdue on the win. They came in there with a willing to win. I mean, they didn't sugarcoat it at all. Yeah, it's just I don't know what else to say. I know our founder Brad was texting to him throughout the night, and he's very frustrated too. Excuse me, man, and I'm already hoarse, no doubt. Yeah, just a very frustrating way to end the season. I know it sounds repetitive, and I apologize for that. And but I probably feel the same way a lot of y'all do. I wish we would have had a positive post-game show, but I'll say this: despite the ending of the game, Tennessee's had a great season. Nobody expected this to be in this situation. Preseason pick kind of near the bottom of the SEC East, and then media picking us to win 3-4 games, and here we came out and won 7. We beat the teams that we're supposed to beat for the most part, and then you hung in there with Alabama and Georgia for the most part. Like I said, it's just there's nothing to feel sad about this year, and there's a lot of excitement. You got some player. We got to see emergence of some major superstars. Cedric Tillman came into the year, only had like 4 career catches, and he just blossom into an all SEC wide receiver. Hendon Hooker was kind of a middle of the road ACC quarterback at Virginia Tech, came into the program, and after taking over Joe Milton, and became beloved on campus. And then you've seen the other emerges. Jalen High had a nice game tonight, had that great touchdown to tie it up. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Javonte Payton was, for some reason, I thought he wasn't going to play tonight. It's my bad. He ended up playing. He had a very nice game. Of course, unfortunately, that's his last game, and last game for Matthew Butler and a lot of these seniors. Man, I really wish we would have got that Velus Jones Jr., another one. Just very frustrating for these seniors that really gave their heart for Tennessee. Yeah, Joe says easily the worst officiated game I've seen. It's right there. I mean, very frustrating. And this was an ACC crew that we had tonight. Which we've, yeah, it's just very frustrating. That's all I'm going to say. Like I said, I feel bad for the players, especially these seniors. And like I said, you're going to get, yeah, I agree, Dave. Terrible rest tonight. Paul said they should have sit out the rest of the quarter if you have a calf injury. Yeah, that's the thing I'm interested to see, Paul. I'm glad you kind of mentioned that about these injuries. I'm interested to see how these injuries are going to take. How they're going to call it. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword. I know what these teams are doing. They're slowing down the tempo. You're kind of getting a free timeout, especially with an offensive team like that, like Tennessee runs. But you gotta make some sort of a ruling. The really thing that really frustrates me is whenever you're getting ready to snap the ball and then the player goes down. That's very frustrating because that just kills the momentum. And I hope NCAA officials, which I don't trust, maybe somebody will make a ruling in that and change it. David says, proud of the ball, so I'm very optimistic about the future. Absolutely. I'm very excited about next year, and hopefully this team will be fired up, ready to go going into next year. I kind of mentioned in the kickoff show about kind of looking at the schedule for next year. You get Ball State to start the season. Should be an easy win. You go to Pittsburgh next year, which they picked up Keaton Slovis, the transfer quarterback from Southern Cal. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a Kenny Pickett. But Tennessee's going to have to really buckle down on that secondary next year. You lose Theo Jackson also. So you'll have Jalen McCullough. You don't have Alontae Taylor anymore. So Tennessee's going to have to really get some guys in that secondary against these type of quarterbacks. And, kudos to Aiden O'Connell. I mean, he played very well tonight. I'm not going to take that away from him. But yeah, Tennessee's going to have to really be ball hawks, which then again, he did throw 3 picks tonight. Aiden O'Connell did. So it's the whole game is so frustrating because, they try to do what they can. Yeah, you gave up 524 yards and 5 touchdowns, but man, those 3 picks and just still couldn't get it done. That's the frustrating part. Now, granted, it was a defensive lineman and a linebacker that got 2 of the picks, and the other one was a secondary guy. But yeah, kind of looking at next year, getting back on track. It's so sickening. That's why I don't even want to talk, man. I feel you. I'm right there. I'm surprised I've kind of gone 15 minutes. I thought I wouldn't go 5, but I guess this is therapy here for me. And for people who know me personally, I'm not a very loud person, and I was frustrated at times tonight, but I try to be the conscience, I guess. But looking at next year, like I said, Pitt's going to be very interesting. Florida is going to be a big game for us. We saw how Florida looked in the Gasparilla Bowl. I think Billy Napier is walking into a mess in Gainesville. There's a lot of undisciplined players down there. Tennessee needs this win against Florida next year. There's no excuse. You got kind of a depleted roster down in Gainesville, kind of very similar to where we were last year. You get them at home. you got to, I mean, you have to get this win next year. Kevin, good evening to you. Should have never went to overtime. Bad calls the whole game. We won in my book in regulation. Yeah, I agree. I had that final drive was very frustrating, especially on that fourth down call, or when Hendon Hooker ran it up the middle, and that was a very controversial call at the tail end, and then set up Chase McGrath for a 56-yard field goal. And I love Chase McGrath to death, but that's a tough spot for a young kicker. I know he made one from 52, and I understand you want to win it in regulation, but we didn't do him any dividends. And even like the Cedric Tillman no pass interference call when he got tugged by the jersey, or at least a hold, that should have been called too. But I really thought that final drive should have been executed a lot better. I had no issue with kicking the field goal, but you did no dividends for Chase McGrath there. So that's another frustrating part. Paul says, I need you to get mad. I never heard you ever talk bad about anyone. I need tonight. Well, thank you. There you go. But yeah. Williams says, if they call that hole on Tillman, that would have made it easier. Absolutely. And that's the frustrating part. They were throwing everything, and some of them was the correct call. But this crew, you barely touched the guy, and it was pass interference. And then the one time it doesn't go Tennessee's way, he clearly pulled the back of the T-shirt, which is part of the uniform. They didn't see it, didn't call it, and it put McGrath in a bad position. And I feel bad for him because I think he's a senior too. Yeah, just a very frustrating end to the season. It's been and really the SEC has had a bad bowl performance so far. South Carolina is the only team that's won from the SEC, which I know some Tennessee fans love seeing the rest of the conference suffer in bowl games and only want to see Tennessee wins. And then I know some fans who want to flex the SEC muscle and dominate, but so far the SEC is not look good in bowl games. 1-4, 1-5 right now. Now granted, you do have two SEC teams in the playoffs, so but yeah, just a frustrating night, no doubt about it. Kind of pull up some stats really quick here. And thank you for joining in and venting your frustrations on the comments. I appreciate it. Yeah, Hendon Hooker tonight, 26 for 41, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns, no turnovers, except for the fumble he had, but no interceptions. Jabari Small, 28 carries, 180 yards, and a touchdown. That's another thing that kind of frustrated me. I love Jalen Wright, and I know we're talking about Jalen Wright with the touchdown that should have been called. But I thought we should have gave the ball to Small a lot more tonight. It was kind of frustrating because he have a big run, big play, and then we swap him out for Jalen Wright. And I'm like, I would have kept going. Keep feeding it to your bell cow. And I love Jalen Wright. He's got a bright future at Tennessee. But, I thought, man, Jabari Small wants to win this game too. And I'm not saying Wright didn't. It's just you got to go with a hot hand. Tillman tonight, 7 catches for 150 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. Kind of looking at the rest of the stats here. Hendon Hooker, 19 carries, 65 yards tonight. Jalen Wright, 17 carries, 54 yards. And we're going to call that a touchdown here on Ball Society. Hopefully no Purdue fans are watching. Velus Jones Jr., 10 catches, 85 yards, a touchdown. He was targeted 14 times tonight. Princeton Fant, went to him a lot more tonight. 3 catches for 71 yards. He had a big play for 58 yards. A lot of explosive plays from both teams tonight. Jalen Hyatt, 3 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown, which sent it into overtime. Peyton had 2 catches for 35 yards, and then Small had 1 catch for 2 yards. And of course, Tennessee had 3 interceptions tonight. Trevian Flowers, Kamal Haddon, and Byron Young. I'm excited to see what Byron Young's going to do at Tennessee. I love this kid. He's definitely climbed up to one of my favorite players and has a great story. Former Dollar General assistant manager, now playing in the SEC at a program like Tennessee. Great story. Jeremy Banks had 14 tackles tonight. Byron Young, 7 tackles. Warren Burrell had 5. Of course, there are times I was frustrated with Burrell. Theo Jackson, 4 tackles. I'm trying to find pass deflections. It doesn't say on this. And then Purdue stats. Purdue only ran the ball 93 yards tonight, but they threw for 534. So definitely. Ball State, good evening to you watching us on YouTube. We will have a very bright future. Absolutely. Like I said, I mentioned we need to get a win over Florida next year. Going to Baton Rouge next year with Brian Kelly in his first year. Could be interesting to see what happens in that game. Georgia and Bama is going to be tough, although I think it's going to be interesting to see how Georgia does with, they're going to kind of have a new roster next year, I think. A lot of guys. 666 yards Tennessee had is the devil himself. Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't even register that. That is true. Oh, I wish we had an angel on our side, but I guess that wasn't the case tonight. Like I said, if you may have saw on the pre-show tonight, before we went, before the game, I talked about kind of what I think the media is going to project us next year. I think that after tonight's performance, they'll probably kind of write us off. But I love us floating under the radar next year, at least in the SEC East. It's going to be tough. Georgia's going to be the toughest ticket. But don't be surprised if you hear in the summertime and the off season. We have a Georgia fan in tonight. TikTok Chess Hall says, "I'm a UGA fan, but you guys were robbed." Well, thank you, and we think so too. And good luck to your dogs tomorrow. Ball State said they wanted Purdue to win, so bad, quite possibly. It's frustrating, but definitely in the summer you're going to hear a lot of hype about South Carolina. Ball State agrees with our Georgia fan tuning in. You're going to hear a lot of hype about South Carolina because of Spencer Rattler coming over from Oklahoma, the former 5-star quarterback and preseason Heisman Trophy favorite. And then he brought his tight end over, and they did get a win over North Carolina in the Duke of Mayo Bowl today. So I'm not scared about playing South Carolina next year, but you're going to hear a lot of hype about, no pun intended, about South Carolina next year. But I'm not scared of the Gamecocks, even though we got to go down there. I'm just kind of thinking the rest of the schedule. Obviously, you get Kentucky at home next year. I'm not too scared about them next year. Vanderbilt is Vandy. But yeah, trying to spin some more. I try to find some positives in it. Kudos for our fan base. Really everybody tonight set a Music City Bowl record, 69,000 fans at the Music City Bowl. Let's see if WWE can break that for SummerSlam next year. Ball State says, "I still love our coach." Absolutely. Coach Heupel is the man. And like I said, it was just a frustrating night, frustrating end to the season. These guys really wanted to win it. It was, we got robbed at the end. We're not sugarcoating it. I have no idea how that was not a touchdown. He was clearly on top of a Purdue player. You had a camera shot from ESPN right down the sideline at the goal line. I don't know. You gotta let the play out, in my opinion. I don't have no issue with reviewing plays, but even if you call it short, go back and review. And I just don't get where they saw it and saying the whistle blew and he was marked down, and that made no sense. I don't know. Unless I'm missing something now. I've never played organized football myself. I'm just a fan, just a normal Tennessee fan like every one of y'all. But I don't know. Just a frustrating night. I really wanted that win so badly for these kids, especially for our seniors. But the future is bright in Knoxville for next year. Like I said, you've got a pretty favorable schedule for the most part. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the SEC, particularly in the East, adjusts to this up-tempo offense with Josh Heupel. Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see 2022, but there's going to be a lot of excitement and enthusiasm going into next year. Josh Heupel is the man. He's still our coach. He's beloved. Just very excited about for 2022, despite everything that happened tonight. Like I said, we should have won it. If you want to call it a moral victory, call it. Go right ahead. I would probably call it too. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, I don't know kind of what else to say. Just a frustrating 24 hours of Tennessee athletics with the Alabama game last night, and then with this game tonight. At least I saw the Lady Vols are up at the half against Bama, so I know we've had fans last night chime that we can never beat Alabama and something. Maybe we can win in women's basketball tonight. Oh well, but anyways, we'll kind of go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Obviously, I wanted to be enthusiastic and celebrate, but unfortunately, it is what it is. Just a very controversial game. Should have been a Tennessee win. But I don't know what else to say. It's just frustrating, but we'll continue to roll along with Vol Society. Football season is unfortunately done, but we'll have some more football content coming up in the off season. Definitely want to around February do another recruiting update episode on the final recruiting day. Definitely we'll talk to y'all during football season right before the orange and white game, which looks like we will be playing the orange and white game at Nissan Stadium due to the renovations at Neyland Stadium right now, and sounds like they're not going to be ready by the spring. Should be late summer right for the 2022 season. So hey, that's fine with us. We'll go back over there and put on a show for our great fans who tuned out or turned out for the show. Mr. Roger says, "Roll on Vols." Absolutely. Glad you joined us, Raj. Yeah, but kudos to our fans. They turned out tonight in Nashville. And there were some Purdue fans too. But Vol Nation's the best. Like I said, we should have got the win. No doubt about it. But we continue on. As far as Vol Society Live goes, we'll be back next Wednesday night as we're now diving into basketball. We're going to go on a little earlier than normal. We're going to start next Wednesday night at 6:00 due to the Tennessee Ole Miss game that is going to preoccupy our 8:00 game. So we'll have a show before the Ole Miss basketball game, the home opener for Tennessee in conference play. Hopefully I think we should get a rebound win after last night's performance with Alabama. And then like I said, it's going to be kind of more basketball talk up until around February. And then we'll do a final recruiting show for football. And then we'll talk some spring football. And then also, we'll dive into baseball too. So February is going to be quite interesting because I'll have to do a baseball preview show. So we'll talk about the baseballs coming up in the wintertime. But right now it's all about basketball going forward. So hopefully you'll tune in. Please follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/UT Vol Society. Our channel is growing on YouTube and on our Facebook page. So tell all Vol fans about us. Like I said, and keep tuning in to Vol Society Live. Like I said, and hopefully I know 2022 is going to be a big year for us and try to get some more content for y'all. So Want to wish every one of y'all a happy new year. Thank you for supporting the channel in 2021. We wish, obviously, here at the Vol Society, we wish everyone a happy and healthy new year in 2022. Hopefully, it'll be optimistic for everyone. So we'll go ahead and wind it down. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Until then, this has been David Morrison for the Vol Society Network. We wish you all a good night. And always, go Vols. Uncrowned Music City Bowl champion.